Hello, I'm James here at Gear4music with Jason from Headline Audio, and we're going to have a look at the brand new Nord Grand 2. If you enjoyed this video, let us know, drop a little comment down below, leave us a like. Jason, Nord Grand 2, what's it all about?
So, what Nord have done with the Grand 2, they've taken the Grand 1 and it is literally twice the keyboard that it was before. So we've got 2 layers of piano in there now. We've got 2 layers of sample synth playback, 120 notes polyphony, and then 2 gigabytes of storage for the piano and 1 gigabyte of storage for the sample synth. So double everything that was on the Grand 1.
Fantastic. And with those layers, you can balance them individually. You can do splits layers, that sort of thing?
You can. We can see each layer's got its own individual fader with LED indicators down the side. So yeah, you can do your own mix of those layers live as you go. Fantastic.
And the effects section, you can have different effects for each?
Yep, absolutely. There are 4 independent effects processors built in. So 4 of what we can see there. And each one of those 4 layers is assignable to each individual layer. So 4 independent layers with 4 independent effects processors for each one.
It's very powerful then.
It is, yeah.
So what's new? Let's take the piano section first. So what's new in the piano section?
So in the piano section, we've got obviously loaded extensively with grand pianos, uprights, electrics. There's some FM samples in there as well. What's new in the piano section is they've added dynamic compression to that front end. So what the dynamic compressor does that's different than a full range compressor, it only affects the transient part of the note. So if you're playing something incredibly soft, but you want to be in control of the dynamics of the keyboard and not have a sound engineer sort of messing around with it, then what you do is set that dynamic compression to just give you a little volume lift of those notes on the transient part. So then you get all of the characteristics of a piano being played quietly, but you get all of the volume and a nice balanced output that's easier to drop into a mix.
And the unison control, that's new for the Grand 2?
It is new for the Grand 2. So the unison control is something that's on the stage 4 as well. What the unison does is, say we add an extra voice and we play, say, a middle C, it'll take the nearest note that's not being used and transpose that to middle C also. So now we've got 2 voices slightly out of phase just on that middle C, and so on and so forth. And that just basically layers more and more voices together until you've added 3 voices in total, and then you've got these huge dynamic sounds.
Lovely, yeah. So it's that kind of ensemble kind of effect.
Exactly that, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And although this is the first time I've seen the Grand 2, you were having a little play earlier, and I could hear there's things like the pedal noise. Yeah. You were having a little play with that. That's a little detail they've added.
There's lots of lovely little details, which just we think it just gives the Nords more of a realism than any of the other keyboards on the market. But yeah, that's a feature that's been around since the triple pedal came out. So if you hit that sustain pedal, as it would with a piano, and as those dampers are lifted, you get all of the internal resonance of the chamber of either a grand or an upright. They're all modelled individually. So it's all part of the sampling process. The notes are sampled, but also all of these characteristics of the piano that's been sampled as well.
So it just kind of adds to the realism of
it does.
Playing.
It really
fantastic.
does. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so you've got 2 layers of the piano, but then you've got another 2 for the sample/synth section. So what's that one about?
So the sample synth section is all of the other sounds that you want to either layer with the piano or use independently. So whereas the piano covers off, as we said, we've got grands and uprights in there. Sample synth, we have got some analog synthesizer sounds in there and some envelope control to manipulate those with. But we've also got all of our orchestral sounds are in there, string sounds, brass, ensemble, all of those are built into that sample synth section. All completely interchangeable with any sound from nordkeyboards.com.
Brilliant, yeah.
There's also in there, and we're allowed to talk about this because this was announced today, but they've collaborated with Spitfire, and Spitfire have provided some string sounds which are built into the Grand 2.
Yeah, so I've heard the Spitfire stuff. It's all those kind of really nice, lush,
yeah,
brilliant kind of orchestral sounds, aren't they?
World famous sound library. So yeah, we're really glad Nord talked to those guys, and now some of those sounds are available. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I've spotted there's a vibrato now. I've not seen that before on a Nord.
There is, specifically for things, I mean, you can apply the vibrato to any of the sounds in that section, but for strings, it's fantastic. So you can set that vibrato with a time delay. So when you play the note there, bowed, and then after however many seconds, the vibrato will then be applied. You can also control it from an external control pedal, but you can also assign the triple pedal to trigger the vibrato as well. So you've got full expressive control over those sounds.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. And is there anything else on the on the sample synth section that we should be looking at?
There is the unison feature is on there that we mentioned earlier. Also things that more applicable to the analog synthesizer sounds that are in there. We've got mono legato control, and then we've got a glide to add some portamento onto that as well.
And that mono legato feature, can that be applied to all those sounds, the string sounds?
Any of the sounds that are in there, yeah, you can apply that too. So,
and the vibrato as well, that's applicable to all the. You can use that also as a sort of modulation effect on the synth sounds.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Fantastic. Lovely. So, and then you've got the effects section.
So the effects processor's a lot more extensive than the old one. We've got two, it's laid out in a very traditional way for an effects section. So we've got two layers of modulation. The first one deals with mainly tempo-based effects. So we've got tremolo, pan, things like that in there. The second modulation section deals with the more traditional modulation effects. So we've got flanger, phaser, there's two choruses in there and a vibrato control in there as well. Moving on, we've got an EQ with a bass and a treble control and then a swept mid. We've also got 3 amp models in there as well, so we can model a twin, a JC, or a small speaker, and each one of those has got a drive circuit on, so we can distort those sounds, and all of those are passable through that amp as well. So you can put, as I say, independently layer and assign that amp control to each one of your different sounds, so you've got total control over the dynamics there. And then there's a full range compressor on the end. We mentioned the dynamic compressor earlier. The full range compressor will just compress everything that's going through the keyboard globally, and then you just get that nice balanced output.
Brilliant, yeah, so it kind of sounds kind of radio ready.
Exactly
almost,
that, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And some of these you can assign independently, and some of them you can assign globally as well. That's
right, yeah. So globally we can assign the delay, we can assign the EQ and the compressor to control all four layers at the same time. And then we've got the reverb, which is available as either as a global thing, or we can send that to the individual layers as well.
Lovely. And there's a couple of new reverb effects on there. Am I right with that?
There is. There's the new choral effect on there. Which adds many more voices to your reverb, and really you've got to sit there in a stereo situation like we've got set up there, and the choral reverb just brings the whole thing alive. It's a fantastic effect.
It is lovely, and that's on the stage as well, isn't it? You can get this kind of modulated reverb, big kind of ambient spaces. It's beautiful.
That's it.
Big fan of that. So is there anything else kind of in depth in the keyboard that's that we should be looking at?
I mean, just looking at the central section there, central section on the Nord keyboards, traditionally that's where control for the whole keyboard resides. They've added an extra live patch on this, so once we enter live mode, which is the mode where we forget about presets and we just set sounds up on the fly, we set our layers up on the fly, all of the effects, and those are automatically stored. So no matter what we've tinkered with, we then go to Live 2 and we can do exactly the same again. But if we go back to Live 1, it recalls all of those settings exactly as we left them. The previous Grand had 5 of those patches on. We've now got 6 on the Grand 2.
Oh, fantastic.
Another feature that I just wanted to talk about was on the piano section, there's a great dynamic control on there, which only applies to the electric pianos, so only on Rhodes, only on a Wurlitzer, things like that. But once it's selected, it's Dyno 1 and Dyno 2. These were plates that you used to be able to buy in the 70s to modify your electric piano. The inventor of these didn't feel that the original electric pianos were good enough to be used in a studio or on stage, so invented this mod, and Nord have recreated 2 of those plates really accurately on this, so you can apply those to any electric piano. And what that does, it gives all of the tines like a real bell-like quality, but it also is like an EQ boost, and then you can really attack the keys and it will gain those keys up but also compress them at the same time. And once you've got either of those dyno settings on, that's pretty much the really famous recorded Rhodes piano sound that was the sound of the 70s, if you like.
Right, okay.
And that's all built in, and you can add that on and you can take it away from any of the samples that are on there. It's not like a hardwired sort of fix per patch. You can add and take away. So
you're almost sort of custom modding.
Exactly.
Like they were in the 70s, but just with a click of a button.
And you don't need a soldering iron, so yeah, it's a lot safer. So yeah, we can see we've got the Grand 2 set up on Nord's beautiful wooden stand there as well. So this is the version 4 of the wooden stand, matches the finish on the Grand 2 perfectly. And we believe this is the ultimate home piano setup. I know that's subjective and it's going to sort of change from person to person, but with this stand, it'll look incredible in any home, but you've also got the monitors mounted on the top as well. You can see with the Nord monitors, they come with the brackets, pre-drilled holes on the back of the Grand. Once they're mounted, you can see they're at a very specific angle. So once you're sat in the middle, you are sat in the sweet spot for the perfect stereo picture, not just for stereo effects and things like that, just for the dynamics of all of the sounds that are built in there. The sound is completely around you. So it's coming from behind, the sides, everything else through the very clever technology that's in these monitors. So yeah, if you want a digital piano for home, this is a completely viable alternative to a high gloss black or white piano.
It's lovely, and it doesn't take up too much space either. It's not this kind of big, bulky...
No, it's quite a small footprint, yeah.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Lovely. So, we've had a little look at the Nord Grand 2, but I haven't actually played it yet. Do you mind if I have a little play?
No, sorry, you can't.
No, I don't think
Only joking. Yeah, of course you can. Off you go.
I'll have a little play and I'll let you know what I think. So, first thing that I noticed straight away is that new Kawai hammer action. That's new for this. It's different to the Grand one.
It is. It's Kawai's latest triple sensor hammer action. So continued collaboration between Nord and Kawai, and we're so glad they've put it in there. It makes a huge difference to the instrument.
It does. It really does. I mean, the thing we always say about the Nords is that it really feels like you're playing an acoustic piano and electric piano rather than playing something that's gone through a mixing desk and has been kind of tweaked and everything. It's got all those beautiful sort of little imperfections that you don't even really notice.
It does.
And the same goes for the hammer action. It's just beautifully kind of real and tactile.
It's got a mojo to it, hasn't it? That it's not perfect. It is, but it isn't, and the imperfections are fantastic. It's what makes acoustic instruments what they are, and all of that is present in the Grand 2. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the unison features a really kind of interesting thing as well. I wasn't expecting it to have quite as much of an effect on the sound as it does. It kind of gives that 3D, you know, almost sort of not quite out of phase, but kind of otherworldly kind of feel.
Like I said, that extra dimension, sort of chorusy type, surround type thing going on. So
it's really lovely, yeah. And the other thing that I was really impressed by was the vibrato particularly on the string sounds, because I find with all keyboards really, getting orchestral sounds right whilst playing is quite difficult, because it still feels like you're playing a keyboard. But as soon as you've got that instant kind of delayed vibrato in there, it adds that sense of realism. It's like you're playing an orchestra rather than a keyboard.
It does, exactly. Those Spitfire samples that are in there are absolutely incredible. And yeah, when you use those with that vibrato control, and the way that those samples are set up with the attack, so you can do sort of fast repetitions and there's still a realism to it, and the vibrato sort of kicks in on time delay or from the pedal. So yeah, your fingers become sort of mini orchestral conductors, and it's like playing something different altogether.
And playing through the first few presets, you've got all those kind of beautiful sounds, but the further you go, the presets get more sort of complicated. There's more kind of layers and things being assigned to different effects parameters. And there was one in particular, you'll have to remind me of the name, Pearl Drops?
Pearl Drops.
Pearl Drops, where it sounded like the electric piano was being sent to the delay, but nothing else.
Yeah.
And so you've got this beautiful kind of reverb piano and there's a pad. And then after you've played, you hear it again through the electric piano, and it's almost like little water drops, I guess.
It's a fantastic patch, that. Yeah, I love that one as well. It's so yeah, you've got an acoustic grand layered with an EP, which is going through a delay, so you get an extra EP, which is quite disorientating, and then there's just a pad just to hold the whole thing together. But yeah, great patch.
Lovely. And that dyno comp on the not the dyno comp, sorry, the dyno touch on the keyboard. I didn't expect them to be so different, the two versions. You've got one that's kind of very bell-like and kind of bright, and one that's kind of warm and kind of almost kind of saturated. And
more of a darkness to it.
Yeah, it's lovely, really lovely. So that's the Nord Grand 2. Thanks very much, Jason. It's been a real pleasure.
No problem.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, give us a subscribe, leave a little comment if you've got any questions, and we'll see you next time.